A young American male, 25 years old, sits on the edge of his bed. The room is dark. The only light is the blue glow from his laptop screen. On the screen, his bank account. $5,000, his entire savings, and a transfer button. A friend texted him earlier. A crypto token, up 400% this month. Everyone's making money, everyone except him. His heart is pounding. He feels sick. He feels electric. He clicks the button, and then, immediately, a cold wave washes over him. Not relief, dread. He doesn't sleep for 3 days. You felt some version of that. Maybe not a crypto transfer, maybe a purchase you couldn't explain the next morning. A financial decision you made with your gut that your brain tried to talk you out of. We think money is about math. We tell ourselves it's just numbers on a screen, but it's not. It never has been. Money is a mirror. It doesn't change you. It reveals you. Your fears, your childhood wounds, the invisible stories you've been carrying so long you forgot they were even there. And today, we're breaking down the 3 untold secrets of the psychology of money. The things they don't teach in school. The things that, once you see them, actually change everything. Think back. You're 7, maybe 8 years old. You overhear a conversation, maybe between your parents, maybe a grandparent. Maybe it's just a tone of voice you picked up without fully understanding why. Maybe there's tension at the kitchen table. Someone says, "We can't afford that," or "Money flows easy and nobody talks about it. It's just there," or it isn't. You didn't analyze that moment. You were a kid, but your brain, specifically the part that handles safety, survival, and fear, filed it away, stored it, labeled it, and that label became your money blueprint. Psychologists call this your financial origin story. Behavioral economists call it money conditioning. But whatever name you give it, the science is consistent. Most of your core financial behaviors were locked in before you turned 10 years old. And here's what makes this unsettling. You've been living by those rules ever since, without ever being asked if you agreed with them. Think about someone who grew up watching their family struggle. Every time there was a little extra money, it got spent fast, because somewhere in their nervous system, there was a belief that money doesn't stay. It leaves. It disappears. So you'd better use it before it's gone. That person grows up, gets a job, gets a raise, and quietly still spends every dollar within days of getting it. Not because they're irresponsible, but because a 7-year-old is still running the program. Or flip it, someone who grew up watching a parent obsess over every penny, fear every purchase. That person might grow up financially stable, but emotionally suffocated, guilty every time they spend, anxious on vacation, unable to enjoy what they've earned. These aren't character flaws, they're patterns, and they show up in therapy offices, in financial counseling data, in the real lives of real people. A 2019 study in the Journal of Financial Therapy found that early financial socialization, what we observed and felt about money as children, is one of the strongest predictors of adult financial behavior. Stronger than income, stronger than education level. Read that again. Stronger than education. You cannot out-budget a belief. You can't build a spreadsheet that overrides a subconscious story, not without first knowing what that story is. The practice that actually works, the one researchers and therapists keep returning to, is called narrative financial therapy. You write out your earliest memories around money, what you saw, what you heard, what it made you feel. Because the moment you can see the story, you can start to rewrite it. And that changes everything. Meet David. He bought a stock at $50 a share 6 months ago. It climbed to $70. He felt great. He didn't sell. Now it's trading at $45. His finger is on the mouse. He knows logically the company's fundamentals are weak. He knows he should sell, cut the loss, move on. But he can't. He literally cannot bring himself to click. Why? Not because of analysis, because selling at a loss means admitting he was wrong, and his brain has attached part of his identity to that decision. So he holds. He watches it drop to 40, then 32. What started as a desire to avoid a small, manageable loss turns into a catastrophic one. His ancient emotional brain overrode his modern rational one, and David isn't unusual. David is all of us. Scientists have put people in fMRI scanners and given them a simple task. Think about losing money. What they found should change how you see every financial decision you've ever made. The part of the brain that activates when we contemplate a financial loss is the same part that activates when we face a physical threat, the amygdala, the fear center. No cap. Your brain processes the risk of losing $20 in the stock market the same way it processes being chased by a predator. That's why it feels so visceral. It's not just anxiety, it's survival. This is called loss aversion. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky proved that the psychological pain of losing is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. Losing $100 hurts more than finding $100 feels good. And this doesn't just affect investing. It's operating in every financial corner of your life. It's why people keep paying for subscriptions they never use. Canceling means admitting the purchase was a mistake. It's why people stay in jobs that are draining them dry, because leaving means accepting the sunk cost of years already spent there. It's why high-interest debt quietly doubles in the background. The minimum payment feels manageable today. The $14,000 in total interest feels abstract, not quite real.
But here's where the secret gets even deeper. It's not just about losing money. It's about what the loss actually represents. David's stock wasn't just a stock anymore. It was proof of a decision he made. Proof of his judgment. Selling meant selling a piece of his self-image. Think about your own life. That impulse buy after a brutal day at work, that investment you followed a friend into not because you believed in it, but because everyone else seemed to be winning, the savings goal you abandoned because watching the number grow felt less real than the thing you wanted right now. A Princeton study using fMRI scanning showed that when people made financial decisions, the emotional regions of the brain fired before the rational prefrontal cortex. Every time, you feel your financial decisions before you think them. So, the untold secret, the most powerful financial tool you'll ever use isn't a budget, it's emotional awareness. The simple act of pausing before any non-essential decision and asking one question: what am I actually feeling right now? Stressed? Bored? Afraid of missing out? Resentful? Whatever it is, just name it. Because the moment you name an emotion, your prefrontal cortex activates. You shift from reactive to reflective, from automatic to intentional. You're no longer just a nervous system responding to a stimulus, you're choosing.
Meet Mike and Sarah. Mike just got a promotion. Salary jumps from $90,000 to $140,000. Finally, he thinks, he's made it. The first thing he does is lease a luxury SUV. Not because his old car broke down, because the new car feels like the salary. It proves the salary. For a few weeks, he feels great. He's the guy in the car. But the payment is $1,400 a month. The financial win from the promotion quietly gone, transformed into a monthly obligation and a rapidly depreciating asset. This has a name. It's called conspicuous consumption. Economist Thorsten Veblen described it over a century ago. But the psychology runs deeper than just showing off. Deep down, Mike isn't trying to impress his neighbors. He's trying to convince himself the car is armor, a signal to his own ego that he is no longer the guy who struggled to pay rent. The car says, "I have arrived." But here's the thing nobody talks about. The people you're buying signals for, they're too busy sending signals back. And nobody ends up anywhere. Fast forward a few months. Sarah is alone at the kitchen table paying bills. Mike walks in and sees her face. They're more stretched thin now than before the promotion. The raise went to a car. The car went to a feeling. And the feeling lasted about 3 weeks. This is the lifestyle creep trap. As income rises, spending rises to match it. Every new baseline becomes the new normal almost immediately. The thing you had to have is just your thing now, and you're already looking at the next thing. But here's where the third secret lives.
Mike and Sarah eventually figured this out. They sold the car, took the hit, bought a reliable used car for cash. They used the savings to build what Sarah called a freedom fund. 6 months of expenses just sitting there. Mike's anxiety started to fade. Sarah stopped flinching when the mail came. They didn't become wealthy. They didn't retire early. They just stopped the bleeding. They bought themselves back. Real talk, the opposite of poverty in a psychological sense isn't wealth, it's peace. So let's bring it together. 3 secrets, 3 layers. Your past, the money blueprint formed before you were old enough to question it. The invisible script playing on a loop in the background of every financial decision you've made since childhood. That's secret 1. Your present. The biological fear system that treats financial loss like physical danger. The emotional static that makes you hold on to things that are hurting you just to avoid the pain of admitting it. That's secret 2. Your future. The truth that money's ultimate power isn't in what it buys, it's in the autonomy it creates, the freedom to choose, the peace of not being owned by your own life. That's secret 3. No financial strategy works long-term without all 3, not one. Because money isn't math. It never was. Money is memory. Money is emotion. Money is time. And we've been treating it like it's just numbers on a screen. That gap between what money actually is and how we treat it is where most financial pain lives. But here's the good news. The brain is plastic. Stories can be rewritten. Patterns can be interrupted. The future self can be made vivid, real, and worth protected. None of it starts with a new app, a new spreadsheet, or a new plan. It starts with a question. Think about the last significant financial decision you made. Not the logic behind it, the feeling underneath it. What were you actually trying to get? What were you trying to avoid? Who taught you that? When? Because the most expensive thing in most people's lives isn't a car, isn't a house, isn't a bad investment. It's an unexamined belief they've been living by for 30 years without ever realizing it was there. If money is a mirror, what is it reflecting back at you? If this gave you something to sit with, that's not a small thing. Most people watch 10 videos on money and walk away with a tip. If this gave you a question instead, you're already further along than most. If you want to go deeper into the psychology behind money, behavior, and the stories we tell ourselves, you know where to find us. Psych Uncovered. See you next time.